Welcome to the Noble Ape podcast, Ape Reality. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today I'm in the midst of editing another Ape Reality episode, but I thought I'd record a podcast first, welcoming everyone who's come over from podcast 411, and also giving a bit of an introduction to how you should possibly listen to Ape Reality. While reading the posts relating to my podcast 411 interview, I came across a post discussing listening to Ape Reality for the first time, and it occurs to me that I probably should record a little something about how I think people should listen to this podcast in order to get the most out of it. Personally, I don't listen to more than about 2 or 3 Ape Reality podcasts in a row, aside from the fact that it's my own voice. I think the density of information in some of the podcasts is probably better to be taken over a period of time. Certainly the feedback I've heard from listeners previously is that even if you listen to a podcast in Ape Reality a week from the archive, it'll give you some time to think about what's being discussed and get a sense of what's going on. However, I recommend that you probably pick maybe 3 or 4 of the podcasts from the archive at random intervals or on topics that may interest you and work from there. Oftentimes I will move between topics relatively rapidly, and this is more to do with the way I think about things as opposed to probably the way I should present information in a podcast format. However, some of the podcasts do have a scattershot element which you may or may not be receptive to. But if you do have questions with regards to the podcast or particular information in the podcast and you would like a slower paced podcast recorded on a specific topic, feel free to email me, tom@nobleape.com. I think feedback from listeners has been a large part of the Ape Reality podcast series so far, and I think it'll continue on to be in the future. I think it's very important that listeners ask questions and we have this kind of interaction in terms of me phrasing some of the content specifically for questions that come through. So please feel free to email me, tom@nobleape.com, if you have a topic you'd like me to discuss in particular. If you've just started downloading the Noble Ape simulation and you're reading the related documentation, getting into all that as well, then there are a lot of additional topics that you may want me to talk on in this podcast too. This podcast is in some regard designed to be a complement to the biota.org podcast as well as a Noble Ape simulation and related stuff on the Noble Ape website. So please feel free, if you have questions coming from that material as well, to email me and I will editorialise in Ape Reality. I somewhat frequently editorialise with regards to biota.org. I've got a lot to say with regards to the recent set of Steve Grand interviews, which I'll be putting into future Ape Reality podcasts. So, in short, listen to a smattering of them. Don't listen to them all in a block of time because typically they'll be on related subjects, and listen to them over time. The feedback that I've received from folks that download Ape Reality frequently with a pile of other podcasts is it makes a perfect change because it's relatively short to the other podcasts they're listening to, and then they go back to listening to the other podcasts. So that was my design with regards to Ape Reality. Keep it short, keep the information relatively densely packed, and give people the opportunity to think about it and correspond with me. So, tom@nobleape.com, that email address again. We still have Noble Ape t-shirts available from the podcast 411 interview, or original manuals, if you so desire. Thank you very much for tuning into this special, somewhat brief podcast. Look forward to you tuning into the next podcast.